Alright, what's up, guys? So I decided what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to fill one more so that I get the March side of, because first episode's coming out March 19th, second episode's March 26th. From now on, if an episode is not 10 minutes long, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. And all that stuff. So we are talking about Richard Ramirez. This is part 2, so let's begin. So the murders. On April 10th, 1984, Ramirez murdered 9-year-old Mi Leong, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm sorry, in the basement of the hotel where he was living in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco. I'm not going to, I'm not going to say that. That is, wow. This Ramirez's first known killing was not initially identified as being connected to the subsequent crime spree. In 2009, Ramirez's DNA was matched to a sample obtained at this crime scene. So DNA, the first time that I met in criminal psychology and criminology, all that stuff, first time that I can think of that DNA was used in a criminal case, I think it was either 85, 86, or 87. And I forgot what state it was. I think it was maybe Kansas, Kentucky, something like that. That was the first time. But it wasn't like highly big until probably the OJ case, probably. But yeah. So in 2016, officials disclosed evidence of a second suspect identified through a DNA sample retrieved from the scene who was believed to have been present at Leong's murder. Authorities have not publicly identified the suspect, described as being a juvenile at the time, and have not brought charges due to the lack of evidence. The Nightstalker Crimes. On June 28, 1984, 79-year-old Jenny Vincow was found brutally murdered in her apartment in Glassell Park, Los Angeles. She had been stabbed repeatedly while asleep in her bed. I'm not going to say the rest of that. Ramirez's fingerprint was found on a mesh screen he removed to gain access through an open window. On March 17, 1985, Ramirez attacked 22-year-old Maria Hernandez outside her home in Rosemead, California, shooting her in the face with a .22 caliber handgun after she pulled into her garage. She survived when the bullet ricocheted off the keys she held in her hands as she lifted them to protect herself. Inside the house was her roommate, Daily Yoshi Okazaki, 34, who heard the gunshot and ducked behind a counter when she saw Ramirez enter the kitchen. When she raised her head, he shot her once in the forehead, killing her. Within an hour of the Rosemead home invasion, Ramirez pulled 30-year-old Leanne Veronica Yu out of her car in Monterey Park, California, shot her twice with a .22 caliber handgun, and fled. She was pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital. The two murders and attempted third in a single day attracted extensive coverage from news media, who dubbed the curly-haired attacker the bulgy eyes and wide-space rotting teeth, the quote, the walking killer, end quote, and the quote, the valley intruder, end quote. On March 27, 1985, Ramirez entered a home that he had burglarized a year earlier in Whittier, California, at approximately 2 a.m. and killed the sleeping Vincent Charles Zazara, age 64, with a gunshot to his head from a .22 caliber handgun. Zazara's wife, Maxine Lavina Zazara, age 44, was awakened by the gunshot, and Ramirez beat her. I'm not going to say the rest of that. While he ransacked the room, Maxine escaped her bonds and retrieved a shotgun from under the bed, which was not loaded. The infuriated Ramirez shot her 3 times with a .22, then fetched a large carving knife in the kitchen. Ramirez left footprints from a pair of Avia sneakers in the flower beds, with the police photographed and cast. This was virtually the only evidence that the police had at the time. Bullets found at the scene were matched to those found at previous attacks, and the police realized the serial killer was at large. Vincent and Maxine's bodies were discovered by their son, Peter. On May 14, 1985, Ramirez returned to Monterey Park and entered the home of Bill Dwight, 66, and his disabled wife, Lillian, 56. Surprising Dwight in his bedroom, Ramirez shot him in the face with a .22 semi-automatic pistol as Dwight went for his own handgun. After beating the mortally wounded man into unconsciousness, Ramirez entered Lillian's room. Bill Dwight died of his injuries while in the hospital. On the night of May 29, 1985, Ramirez drove a stolen Mercedes-Benz to Monrovia, California, and stopped at the house of Mabel Ma Bell, 83, and her sister Florence Nettie Lang, 81. Finding a hammer in the kitchen, he killed Lang in her bedroom, and then so he nearly killed him, but they actually survived, and he actually got some lipstick and drew a pentagram on one of the victim's thighs, as well on the walls of both bedrooms. Discovered 2 days later, both women were found alive but comatose. Bell later died of her injuries. The next day, Ramirez drove the same car to Burbank, California, and sneaked into the home of Carol Kyle, 42. At gunpoint, he found Kyle and her 11-year-old son with handcuffs, and then ransacked the house. He released Kyle to direct him to where the family's valuables were. He fled the scene after retrieving the child from the closet On the night of July 2nd, 1985, he drove a stolen Toyota to Arcadia, California, randomly selected the house of Mary Louise Cannon, 75. After quietly entering the widowed grandmother's home, he found her asleep in her bedroom. She was also found dead at the crime scene. Let's see. On July 5th, 1985, Ramirez broke into a home in Sierra Madre, California, and murdered 16-year-old Whitley Bennett with a tire ironer as she slept in her bedroom. After searching in vain for a knife in the kitchen, Ramirez attempted to strangle the girl with a telephone cord. He started to see sparks emanate from the cord, and when his victim began to breathe, he fled the house believing that Jesus Christ had intervened and saved her. Bennett survived the savage beating, which required 478 stitches to close the lacerations to her skull. On July 7, 1985, Ramirez burglarized the home of Joyce Lucille Nelson, 61, in Monterey Park. Finding her asleep on her living room couch, he beat her to death using his fists and kicking her on the head. A shoe print from an Avia sneaker was left imprinted on her face. After cruising 2 other neighborhoods, he returned to Monterey Park and chose the home of Sophie Dickman, 63. Ramirez assaulted and handcuffed Dickman at gunpoint, and he stole her jewelry. When she swore to him that he had taken everything of value, he told her to, quote, swear on Satan, end quote. On July 20th, 1985, Ramirez purchased a machete before driving a stolen Toyota to Glendale, California. He chose the home of Leila Needing, a 66-year-old, and her husband, Maxon, 68. He burst into the sleeping couple's bedroom and hacked them with a machete, then killed them with shots to the head with a .22 caliber handgun. He further messed with the bodies with the machete before robbing the house of valuables. After quickly fencing the stolen items from the needing residents, Ramirez drove to Sun Valley. At approximately 4:15 a.m., he broke into the home of the Novaneth family. He shot the sleeping Chenarong Novaneth in the head with a .25 caliber handgun, killing him instantly. On August 6, 1985, Ramirez drove to Northridge, California, and broke into the home of Chris and Virginia Pierson. He crept into the bedroom, startled Virginia 27, and shot her in the face with the .25 caliber semi-automatic handgun. He then shot Chris in the temple and attempted to flee. Chris fought back while avoiding being hit by 2 more shots during the struggle before Ramirez managed to escape. The couple survived their injuries. That's good. On August 8, 1985, Ramirez drove a stolen car to Diamond Bar, California, and chose the home of Sakina Obawath, 27, and her husband, alias Obawath, 31. Sometime after 2:30 a.m., he entered the house and went into the master bedroom. He instantly killed the sleeping Elias with a shot to the head from a .25 caliber handgun. Ramirez, who had been following the media coverage of his crimes, left L.A. and headed to the San Francisco Bay Area. On August 18, 1985, he entered the home of Peter and Barbara Pan. He shot the sleeping Peter, 66, and a couple with a .25 caliber handgun. At the crime scene, Ramirez used lipstick to draw a pentagram and the phrase, quote, "Jack the Knife," end quote, on the bedroom wall. It was discovered that the ballistics and shoe print evidence from the LA crime scenes matched the Pan crime scene. San Francisco's then Mayor Dianne Feinstein divulged the information in a televised press conference. This leak infuriated the detectives in the case, as they knew the killer would be following media coverage, which gave him opportunity to destroy crucial forensic evidence. Ramirez, who had indeed been watching the press, dropped his size 11.5 via sneakers over the side of the Golden Gate Bridge that night. He remained in the area for a few more days before heading back to the LA area. Alright, so I'm going to end that there. Do the rest of the crime scenes in the next episode.